This is the Blooming Psyche Podcast. Grab a seat and join us as we navigate life our own way.
Now let's begin blooming our psyche. Yeah, we just came out of a cold plunge.
Came out of a cold plunge, yes.
Just now.
Had a little nice cold bath, about 2.5 minutes each. That was great. I feel much better. Much better.
Yeah, definitely energized because, I don't know, right? Like we were talking about this earlier, just a moment ago, right? Like just the benefits of the cold plunge in terms of, like for myself, I feel there's like the internal battle, right? Where you don't want to do it, but you got to convince yourself that you have to do it.
Yep.
And then by convincing yourself that you have to do it, you truly know that it's just a simple obstacle, right? It's
exactly.
Nothing. You just get in, you get out.
And then once you've done it enough, you do want to do it.
You do want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But
you never do.
But that's nothing to do with any of the actual physiological effects, right? Like the elevated sympathetic, like your nerves, like everything that makes you feel like you can commit to action.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Like you feel powerful.
You feel focused. you feel, oh yes. It's just, for me, there's nothing but positives that come from that experience. It's become my daily morning routine. It's necessary for me now to be able to go into my day with a good mood. So yeah, it's been fantastic. I'm glad we jumped on that bandwagon. Absolutely. And even if all of the scientific evidence turned out to be false, I would still do it because I know that to me it has benefit.
And that's the thing though, right? Like in terms of like the placebo, like the way that I can induce an effect on myself through belief, right? The confirming like physical side of it where you feel that kind of the stimulation, that's enough to make me be able to convince myself of any effect, really.
Totally.
I feel.
Absolutely.
Right? Like I could convince myself it was hurting me.
Yep. Absolutely.
Right? And some people do.
Yep. Yeah. Some people have such a barrier over their brain over, what kind of feelings a certain specific feeling is. They have an idea that they've created through their lifetime that pain is this experience. This is what this is. They've identified that as one thing, and they've then linked that to a negative or a positive, depending on the thing, right? But for me, pain is not necessarily just a negative now, where it was just a year ago. Pain was bad. Didn't like pain, right?
Yeah.
Now it's a little different. When you're grinding out reps at the gym, when you're sitting in the cold water, that pain is all, I know it's all beneficial to the future, to the me of the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Right? It's no longer, my body is no longer going fight or flight. I want to get the fuck out of here kind of pain. No, it's more like understanding and accepting that this is just what I do now. And it sees that pain as just a hurdle to get over. Right? So if I want to go for the ice in a cold ass ice bath for 5 minutes, my body's going to be like, fuck, we have to go put up with this now. But might as well not make it terrible for them. Right?
Yeah. Because there's one thing that like really distinguishes, one, there's like real pain, right? Like something's wrong. And then there's uncomfortable pain, which is a sensation, right? Both are sensations, but one is like, that something broke and your body's like, something's not right here.
Yeah. There's a differentiation.
Yeah. That's not what this is,
yeah.
Right? It's just like your entire body feels overwhelmed, but in everything, like obstacles, right? There's on the other side of an obstacle is growth. So if you can surpass it, you feel like something below that threshold is easy peasy.
Absolutely.
Right? It's not even an obstacle anymore.
Exactly.
Right? Like we were just talking about, like if I were to do that cold plunge first thing in the morning, then let's say sweeping, cleaning, cooking, laundry, whatever, right? Simple. right? Feels
Becomes
easy.
Yeah, exactly.
Feels easy.
Especially if you do it right after you're done.
Yeah.
Right after you get out of the ice bath, you're just like, okay, well, let's get all this other shit done, and then I don't have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Right, and it's less of a hassle. It's less of a pain in the ass. You've gotten the pain in the ass out of the way. Seriously. Yeah, no, I really do enjoy it. It's given me a lot of insight to what I can handle, to what I can tolerate in my body. Right,
Which is good to know. It's
absolutely
good to know like your limitations.
Yeah, and
I
think you and I over the last couple of years, and there's been dips in our momentum, but we have definitely gone down a lot of different small paths that have come and gone, that have shown us what our brains are capable of handling and what our bodies are capable of handling. For example, just me being a 200-pound guy, banging out 100 push-ups, no problem, like straight, just nonstop, working up to 100 straight push-ups, 1 second intervals for a push-up, right? And then I don't remember exactly how heavy you are now, like 160.
I'm 160.
160.
That's a great guess. Actually.
I just looked at your body and I was like, okay, maybe around 160 works out. Yeah. Then you being at around 160, being able to do 130 push-ups, right? Your body can handle a lot more than you think, especially if you haven't wasted a lot of your internal resources by consuming junk food all the time and not exercising. And
you are what you eat.
If you don't have a core, you might not be able to do 100 push-ups physically, but if you work towards it, you will find that once you build that small baseline of muscle, that you'll be able to do a lot more than you thought, right? And I think just putting yourself in those strenuous situations that make you uncomfortable is step number one to realizing your potential.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's limitations in your physical capability, and you don't want to hurt yourself.
Of course.
Right? That's not the goal.
No.
Right? But you still want to put yourself in a situation where you think you can't do it. You may even know you can't do it. But that knowing is an assumption. Right? And your brain probably doesn't even agree with you. Right? It may agree with you, but you may think you're lying to yourself, and you know that there's a disconnect. It's just an excuse.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
That's the thing. And I think the way that I perceive me, and I think we've talked about this on the podcast in the past, is I don't perceive me as this or this. I perceive me as this. I'm like outside of the body. I think outside of it. Right? So in those moments, and I don't know if you've experienced this, but sometimes it feels like you get sucked back into your body when you're putting yourself through a big, strenuous, terrible experience, right?
Totally.
Sitting in the ice bath, you're like, oh, this is happening to me. But once you take yourself and you go, this isn't happening to me. This is happening to my vessel, my body.
The belonging of me. Exactly.
The thing that I own, the only thing that I own, really. You can then push through far more. The pain that you're experiencing is temporary, no matter what, right? So when I discovered that, I was able to just do more, understand that I have the capacity within me to push further and to make myself more uncomfortable, and to, even if I was feeling true pain, like if I rolled my ankle, I now have the ability to walk perfectly normal with a rolled ankle. It sucks, but I know that it's going to heal, and that as long as I don't go trying to fucking sprint on it right after rolling it, that I won't damage it anymore. Yeah. So I can continue on with my day without, pouting and sitting on the couch all day and doing nothing and just letting it sit, right? It's interesting because you can almost remove pain as an obstacle. Like not real pain, but you can remove minor pain that you can.
I feel like it's like almost like a diffusion.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Because if I'm going to have any sensation, regardless of what it is, let's say I get flicked on the arm, right? It's temporary. But let's say it's consistent. If it's consistent, like pang, and it's there, well, my goal in terms of what I do is I spread it out. Like I link it to my whole arm. But that pain isn't potent enough to make my entire arm uncomfortable.
Exactly.
Right? So it feels like it's kind of muted and mellowed, and then I redirect my attention, and now it doesn't even exist anymore.
It's just something.
It's just gone.
It was. And
it's
now
part
it's
of the whole.
Yep.
Like the sensation shifts. right? But if you don't have the intent or know-how or belief to even put yourself in that situation, well, then now it's not possible.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
So there's a little bit there where you mentioned you being separate from, I guess, the body, right? And I would also agree with that, because sure, your brain is technically a computer, right? In the way that it has induced chemicals via your experience that applies to this computer based on your physiology, right? Your neuromodulators, like dopamine, serotonin, epinephrine, oxytocin, I think, etc. Right? Like there's different little pieces that can affect the way that you behave, or at least that you perceive your experience. But if you can separate and become the observer, well, then now your body becomes a belonging. So you can observe what's affecting your body and happening to your body, and you can assess it, rather than anything that's happening to your body is equally yourself, right? So if my body, or rather anything that's happening to me as an experience, is directly related to my ego.
Yeah.
Because anything that's happening to me is having an emotional value, and that value of, let's say the situation, I can apply it either to the way that I feel about that thing or the way that I perceive that thing. Because if I'm just going to immediately feel, then I'm going to react.
Right.
I'm not going to have any buffer between the way that I'm actually perceiving what's happening and my response to it.
Yes.
I'm just taking it, and it's just a visceral feeling where everything's a reaction.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
You can, like, that's kind of like mind control in a way, where if someone were to yell at me, right, and say whatever thing that would make me uncomfortable, well, then that's going to have an immediate effect on the way that I think about my identity, like myself.
You
So
are
now I feel attacked.
You're identifying yourself with the thing
With
that
an
they
idea.
are saying.
With an idea.
With something else, somebody else is saying, an idea that they are putting into your head.
Yeah.
Which technically is not even a thing that you
No.
need to respond to.
Because
You don't even need to understand the words that they're saying.
No.
You can understand them, but then you could just decide that they're just jumbles of sound.
But what I was getting at is, like, the idea, or like whatever experience that is happening to you isn't necessarily happening to you.
Yeah.
It's happening to something that belongs to you, right? So in terms of your experience, you can decide to get offended by anything that you identify as yourself, and that's a way to get kind of inflamed by someone else's control over you.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're giving control to someone else because you're letting it affect you.
Yeah, or you're just doing things to yourself.
Or you're doing it to yourself.
Prime example of this is I was getting gas on my way here today.
Yeah.
And I was pulling out of Petro-Canada, and then there was a lady that was at a red light. No cars were coming onto the highway, and they were supposed to be turning right onto the highway. And this guy pulls up, doesn't even wait for 1 second before honking and saying, "Go, you fucking idiot!" Like literally not even a second. "Go, you fucking idiot!" Just starts swearing and stuff, just getting himself riled up. Not even having anybody do anything to cause that.
Yeah.
Right? Like instead of just being patient for maybe 10 seconds, just started freaking out. Right? I find it hilarious. Right? And the thing that you were saying, I was going to chop it up to, you can be an observer and respond to things. Right? Or you can be egotistical and react. Right?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you were kind of saying, and that's a good way to condense that. Before, and when you're young, you are very much a reactionary being because we're human beings, we're emotional creatures, and especially when we're young and we don't have control over those emotions, you are just an egotistical little mess.
100%.
Right? And until you kind of learn that life isn't worth always getting upset over things, and life isn't about being the best of the best and making everybody understand that you are the greatest ever, right? And it's just about doing you and moving forward the way that you're going to move forward.
Yeah.
Then you can kind of step back and be like, holy shit, I've been doing it wrong my whole life, right? And I'm glad that you and I kind of discovered this at a younger age and weren't into our 40s before we started thinking this way, because I think especially when you're younger, if you can put this idea into young people's heads, that's how they will start exponential growth and be able to maybe make change in the world. Right? I think a lot of the people that are some of what we would deem to be the greats of history probably had an idea like this when they were young, whether it be through philosophy, whether it be through just natural thought patterns of their own. They probably discovered that other people's opinions don't matter, and I just need to do me.
Yeah.
And once you start doing you, then you'll discover who you are.
Yeah.
And then you'll continue down that path.
Yeah, because I feel like in terms of what a lot of people run into a wall of is obviously there's so many things happening in life beyond your control, right? But in terms of what is in your control is the way that you operate up here, right? The physical world, sure, you can control some things, right? But most things you can't.
Yeah.
Right. So when things happen to you, don't get attached to it. But like you mentioned with, you said like really professional or like high end, like greatest of all time kind of people. Like the first thing came to my mind was like LeBron. Right. But the way that I perceive his interpretation of what he did is he turned everything into like a filter, like a funnel. Right. So any kind of input that was in his experience, he shifted to how does this affect my goal? Kobe, sorry. How does this affect my goal?
Yeah.
Right? And anything that I do,
how can I apply this
to basketball?
Yeah.
So for basketball, sure, there's so many different aspects of it that you can derive. Let's say I'm going to go on a sales call. That may have some aspect where I can find benefit to basketball. Right? So when people decide instead of deciding I want to change my perception to how can I get my goal, is I want to change my perception to how can I be comfortable. Right. And that's where everything goes down the gutter.
Yeah.
Because first of all, looking for comfortability is stagnation, because you're looking for more of the same that is less difficult.
Yeah.
Because less difficult means it's more comfortable to do.
And before we kind of jump into our own issues with the whole way that we're trying to live our lives now.
Sure.
Let's talk a little bit about what it is that is causing comfort to be such a detriment to humans. Because we have lived our whole lives for centuries and centuries and centuries, thousands, millions of, well, maybe not millions, but thousands of years, right? Where we have been struggling for survival. We have been struggling and struggling, and every animal around us, everything that lives in the nature around us is still doing that, right? Everything. And now, within the past, I'm going to say 200 years or so, we have found this place where we have rapidly been able to grow in a more comfortable fashion, living in houses, having electricity, heat, not being cold all year. You know, we don't have to look for those things anymore. And that is why when your brain doesn't see that you aren't requiring to go out and achieve something so that you can earn comfortability, such as hunting for hides, right? To keep warm, right? Your body doesn't feel like it needs to do anything more because it's already got it all.
Yeah.
Right? So the detriment isn't the fact that you are comfortable. It's the fact that your body doesn't realize that you're not actually doing something that is good for you because you are not going out and challenging yourself every day.
Yeah.
Right? So this is why I think mental illness has become an extreme forefront in the world right now, because we don't have people that are simply uncomfortable. If we were in war times like we were 100 years ago, it would be a completely different world. That's why in the 1950s you see nobody was fat, right? But now we're so comfortable that people have been able to just feed themselves into obesity and then can be told that they're okay like that and they can live comfortably like that. It's just like it's so backwards, and everyone's calling it progression. Yeah, but it's really strange. Digression for sure. Yeah, like we're not doing well, and I want to kind of start that off being where we're having our own challenges, right? Because we can talk all we want about what it is that we think we should be doing, right? But it's actually the sitting the fuck down and doing it, right? Or getting the fuck up and doing it if that's what you need to do.
Yeah.
Right? For me, I've always wanted to look better. I've always wanted to be more fit, right? And when I was young, I was fit, but then I just, I also ate garbage food all the time, and that was just kind of normal. And a lot of kids have that life where they're allowed to go and eat McDonald's and stuff after hockey games and all that stuff. Every once in a while, it's not a big deal. But when you're at the point where the cheapest food that you can afford is the shittiest food for you, well, you kind of get stuck, right? So the world we live in like the Americas, is so based around cheap food and it just being garbage and making you fatter and more addicted to it, right? So I can see why human beings as a whole, and me myself, being raised on shitty food and then trying to break that lifelong habit could be such a challenge. Or smoking weed. I've smoked weed for almost 6 straight years. I remember the day that I smoked weed for the first time. No, I remember the day that I smoked a vape for the first time. And you're like, no, it's not you, dude. It's not you. And I tried it and I was fine. And now we smoke weed often, right? And we both tried to quit a few times. It hasn't worked. Like full quit hasn't worked. Taking breaks, that kind of stuff. But I think it really comes down to, do you have the mental power over yourself yet to be able to control what you do?
Yeah.
Because, and I want you to be honest here, how many times have you gone outside and smoked weed after you said you were going to quit, and before you smoked thought, I know I shouldn't be doing this?
Well,
and then done it.
Well, in that case, it would be every time.
Yeah.
But based on what you were saying earlier, I had the thought of like comfortability, but it's not comfortability per se that is the issue. It's what's on the other side of comfortability, because there's seduction in it.
Yeah.
Right? You feel better. Right? And that alone is like an alluring voice in your head, because if you want to feel better, one, it's a want, but two, you're not countering that voice in your head because it's something that you want.
Yeah.
It's something that you feel you're going to get something from, and it's going to work, and it's going to make you at a higher position that you're currently in. And that is the seduction of the comfortability. But the problem with the comfortability is not getting it or having it or enjoying it or striving for it, but the fact that it's typically against whatever goal that you actually have, and it's pulling you in the opposite direction, and it's not really where you want to go. So you feel like you're in your mind maybe stepping forward, but in reality you're stepping back.
Yeah.
And that's the piece that people don't really understand, because they don't have the repercussions yet. Right? Because if you're, let's say, going through school, you're basically getting carried by your parents.
Yeah.
Right? Through whatever position that you're in, it depends, right? But generally, your parents are doing a lot for you, and you don't actually have the same struggles that you would naturally have if you had to provide for yourself.
Right.
And that comfortability is now an obstacle to my mentality trying to get these things for myself.
Yeah.
But in the home, it doesn't matter.
No.
Right? You can be comfortable. You can not do anything. You can play games. You can eat like shit. It doesn't matter. You can be fat. Whatever. It's not going to hinder the things that you're doing, because all you have to do is show up.
Yeah.
But when you have to make the action for yourself and you have to show up for yourself, you don't want to be comfortable.
Yeah.
Because if you're comfortable, you're usually lacking. Because you don't need anything, because you're comfortable.
Yeah.
But, I mean, needing is a different thing, because having a goal is technically a need, right? Because if you don't have a goal, where are you going?
Okay.
If you're not going anywhere, you're going in circles.
Right. So then, when you set a goal, let's just take into account New Year's resolutions for people. Why do you think it is that people make a New Year's resolution? Let's say somebody that wants to be more fit. They last a week or 2 weeks, maybe even a month, maybe even 2 months. But then they always inevitably quit. There's obviously going to be those certain people that are just like, no, I'm doing this, and then they do it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say 95% of the population or more will always quit. Why do you think that is? And why is it that do you think it's maybe like a lack of actual desire for that thing because of comfort? Or do you think maybe discomfort is what you need to experience to make those other things, such as when you, like we were talking about earlier with the cold plunge, making everything easier, right? Afterwards, because that's the hardest part of the day. Do you think people need to experience something like a cold plunge for the discomfort aspect to make everything easier, to kind of make those habits streamlined?
Yeah, I feel like there's a few different things, because like firstly, there's whatever habit structure that you currently possess, that's going to keep you wanting to do that same thing, right? It's like the feeling of loss. If you lose somebody, now you have like this emptiness where there's a gap in that time frame where you want to fill it, but you can't because the person's not there anymore.
This person's gone, yeah.
Right? So it's the same thing with when you're trying to change a habit. You have to be okay with the resistance you're feeling in your mind to shift that habit, because that's going to happen every single time you change something in your mind. You're going to feel that resistance. But if that resistance is too powerful for your own psyche, like your counter voice, that to the devil on the shoulder per se, that's telling you not to do it. If you don't have the counter voice to say, I'm still going to do it because of X, Y, and Z, and then do it, well, then you're not going to do it anyway. Right? So some people lack that. That's one thing. The other thing, in terms of just the way that you might set poor expectations and a poor plan, right? Like if I'm going to set an unrealistic schedule, unrealistic thing, where maybe I can't exactly do what I set out to do, I'm going to fail anyway because my expectations are poor.
Right.
So that's the second thing. The other thing is it could be just not actually wanting it. You think you want it, you think you need it, you think this is what it is, it ain't it.
Yeah.
Right? Or you may not even be able to see what you need because you're stuck in such a hole that you're just running around in a circle chasing your own tail with all of the uncomfortabilities, all the things that you've self-diagnosed for yourself, all the different limitations that you've given yourself. You're stuck in such a hole that you can't believe yourself other than who you are.
Right.
And that, I feel like, is another piece where people lack, because not only can you not believe yourself as a different person because you're so attached to your identity of the things you've gone through through your past as a child, whatever, this is me, this is who I am, how am I going to change? Like, you're giving yourself these limitations.
It's almost as if, and I feel this personally, it's almost as if I have two personalities.
Yeah.
I have the forward momentous thinker.
Yeah.
And then I have the child, the one that was, right?
Yeah.
The thing that I am, or think that I am, or want, maybe want to be.
Or protect.
Want to just keep, want to be able to just sit down and be comfortable and not fucking do anything, right? That was something that's the way I lived when I was young. Just always was like that, right? So I guess moving away from that could be a big anxiety piece too, because you don't know what the future is going to hold. Well, you don't know what it's going to look like.
Death.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
It's loss of self.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I looked up how much time I have left in weeks. Right? When you look at it, let me find it.
It was 1,300 to 3,500.
I will find the exact number, because every Friday, what I'm doing, by the way, is I'm taking that, and every Friday I'm writing out what I did from Saturday to that Friday. And I am kind of like, not the whole thing, I'm just doing a very generalized small paragraph summary of what I did. And every week that number is going to go down. So I had 1,342 weeks gone. And then I have 3,181 weeks left for the average lifespan of a Canadian male of 82.
Okay.
3,181 weeks.
Yeah. If everything goes right.
That's fucking terrifying. That's if everything goes right. Yeah. So that's a terrifying thought. And as that number goes down further and further and further, the only thing that can happen is I will either decide that I'm going to wallow in my sorrows, or I can get better.
Yeah.
And you're damn right that I'm going to start trying to get better because
Better hope so.
I mean, like, yeah, if you want to wallow in sorrows and be just pitiful to yourself and make everyone feel sorry for you,
Yeah.
do your thing. But that's not the way I want to live.
No.
I want to bring people up. I want to make my family happy. I want to make them, I want to be able to, bring them out on crazy adventures or whatever, bring them on a vacation or buy them a house, whatever. Like, all of these things are things that I wish I could be able to do one day. So I'm slowly going to work my way towards that. And I think one thing that I do is I get very excited about something and then I just fucking full tilt into it. And then I blow my load of all of my excitement in a couple, like in a month period or 2-month period.
Yeah.
And then that dopamine based around that thing goes away real fast. And then I lose the interest, and then I'm looking for something new, right?
Yeah.
So it's really difficult for me to want to stick to one thing. And that's, I think, my biggest struggle right now, because I know that I want to get good at something, but I always just get good at a lot of, like I get a very basic premise of a lot of little things, but I don't actually like go forward with it a lot of the time. Right. And that's why I like Blender, because as we talked about a long time ago, I want to be I want to be a great creative person. I have the brain for it. The way that I think, I can visualize things instantaneously, like pictures in my head. Right. And it's all from me. It's not from memory. It's not like photographic memory where you can see a page and then you can read off of that page with just your brain and remembering, right? No, this is me making things up in my head and then seeing it. So some people would call that crazy.
No, that's creation.
Exactly. But
right? You're just creating imagery.
Exactly. So that's why I really like the 3D art that I'm kind of following through with, because I can literally make those things appear in front of my face. I can see them, and then I can fuck around with the Blender, and then I can make it happen right there. Right? And I really enjoy that. That's why I want to get better at drawing and doing all these other things, because it's just a path that I can go down and that I can enjoy while I'm doing it. It's more about enjoying the process for me, and I needed to find something that I actually do enjoy the process of accomplishing and doing, instead of everything else where I'm looking at the end result, which usually before was money. Right? And that, I think, is the wrong approach to take.
Totally.
Money, if you're only concerned with money, for me at least, it's money equals not really enjoying that thing because you're too focused on the money, and then when you're not really enjoying that thing, it leads to a dead passion. But
Said.
If you find a passion that you love and that you enjoy, you'll just do it because you love and enjoy it.
Yeah, 100%.
And
right?
then money just comes as a fucking side piece, right?
Yeah, like if your goal is to get money out of something, well, that's also where you're going to derive your satisfaction. If you haven't applied priority to generating happiness or joy or the reward of enjoying the process, rather than the outcome. Yeah. Right? Because you can only see the outcome so many times, and it's always very brief. Yeah. It's a split second. It's just a happenstance that you have arrived. Yeah. Right? So you can only get so elated from the happenstance you've arrived somewhere rather than the full flourishing of enjoying all parts of the journey. Right? Two completely separate perspectives. Totally. Right? So if you're trying to enjoy the process, well, then you're going to be in the moment. Right? You're going to be right there, ready to go, looking at what's happening, processing what's happening. But if you're always future sighted in terms of an objective, well, sure, that might be beneficial. But if that's the entirety of what you're looking at, well, then you're not going to be happy in the moment. Yeah. You're not going to be enjoying the process. You're going to be lacking. Because once you've attained, you may have physical things that you've acquired. But unless that physical thing is going to help you in your journey to feel that joy, well, then there you have it, right? But if you're going to go about only looking at the outcome, well, then you're going to feel empty by the time you get there. And you're going to feel like, what am I missing? What did I not look for?
Yeah.
What did
This must not be the
I
thing.
I have all the things I wanted,
Yeah.
but why do I have all the things I wanted and I'm not happy?
Yeah.
Because
Exactly.
you never looked at the inside, you only looked at the outside. And I feel like some people are so caught up in what's happening around them that they never give themselves time to disconnect, stop thinking about things that's happening around them, and redirect to things that the way that you're feeling, how you're feeling about the thing that I just did. Why did I do it that way? Okay, well, if I did it this way, maybe that would have helped this thing that I was thinking about. And then after you've had those thoughts, actually think about what you've done and enjoy that. Take the time to appreciate the little thing that you've just done, or you're not going to appreciate it.
Exactly.
You have to have the thought and the awareness to think that I'm going to appreciate it,
Yeah.
right?
Or just to think I'm appreciating it while I'm doing it.
Exactly.
It's hugely important.
Which is like a state of mind as well.
Yeah, absolutely. How about you tell me a little bit about some of your struggles that you've gone through? What are some things that you've reverted to that you know you shouldn't be and don't think about sometimes and have to consciously find yourself back onto the right track?
Usually, like with everybody, there's a level of distraction where you know you have things that if you did those things, your life would be better, objectively.
Yeah.
But in terms of comfortability, like everybody, yet again, you have the same limitation where if I want to be comfortable, then I'm happy. But that's only temporary,
Right.
right? So in the moment, I could be in a perpetual cycle of happiness and joy. But in reality, my actions aren't bringing me anywhere, right? So it may be green on this side and way greener on this side. Obviously, I can't tell until I get there. But at the same time, you know that this has a limited lifetime.
Yeah.
Wherever you're at, it's not going to last forever.
No.
If you think it's going to last forever, your expectations, yet again, are not in the right place.
Yeah.
So knowing that you have to make forward progression is another thing, right? Because whenever I feel like I'm not making forward progression, I feel like I'm misdirected.
Yeah.
Right? And if I feel like I'm misdirected, well, then now I have seeded thoughts of, why am I not doing this? Why am I not doing this? Why am I not doing that? Why am I not doing this? And now I've just set in to my identity that I'm not doing things.
I'm not a doer.
I'm not a doer. I'm not doing this. Why can't I do that? Right?
Yep.
But now my language has shifted from, oh, I'm going to do this. Oh, this is cool. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. And this is also cool, to reflecting it in the opposite direction, where now I'm in a negative mindset because of my language and a positive mindset because of my language. And that's all it is. It's the words in your head. If I'm going to say, oh, you suck at this. Well, now just the moment I said I suck, I've identified myself as being worse than if I said, oh, you could have done this and that would have been great. And then now I make that change and now I feel great.
It's so funny how
Tiny little pieces.
those little things, like just
Tiny.
the small differentiations in your language, in your own head, can really change everything.
Yeah, because yet again, what happens in your head is what happens outside of your body, right? Because I'm going to think a thing, I'm going to behave in a way,
Yeah.
right? So if my thoughts are terrible and I'm angry in my thoughts, I'm going to be angry in my emanation of myself,
Right.
my energy, my delivery, everything, right? But if I'm calm and collected, well, then I'm going to appear calm and collected.
Yeah.
It's two separate things. But yet again, if you're appearing calm and collected, that also affects your behavior, right? Because if my mind is in a good space, well, then I'm not going to have the same resistance to normal activity.
Right.
But if my mind is in a bad place where I'm already at a deficit, like, oh my God, I feel exhausted. And just the thought of saying, oh, I feel exhausted, you've given yourself the feeling of being exhausted.
Yeah, it's
And
crazy how
simple.
language affects people.
But yet again, there's no counter to that thought.
No, there really isn't.
Right? Because if I say I'm exhausted and I leave it at that, I've done myself a disservice.
Yeah, and instead of getting up and doing something to actually make your body feel exhausted, like working out,
Yeah.
you should earn exhaustion.
Yeah.
Exhaustion shouldn't just be something that you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh, I'm exhausted. And then you just have now set up the rest of your 24 hours of your day
It's already crap.
to be shit, right? Going back to distraction, I hate distraction. I fucking hate it.
It's
It's a little demon that just grabs you and it's just like, the fuck over here, buddy. Yeah. So I hate that shit. And I think that distraction, it has been capitalized upon. It is completely something that people
predatory
have exactly. It's something that people have pushed to the forefront of humans essentially. It's the best way to bring in capital for many businesses. So people have made, like YouTube for example, the shorts. Do you know how hard it is for me to focus on things now? I had ADHD when I was younger, when I was really young, right? Yeah. I was hyperactive. I couldn't focus on shit. And then YouTube Shorts came out. Now ADHD is fucking wildfire. It is everywhere. Nobody can focus on shit, and I especially can't focus on shit. And the thing is, you won't notice it, but the more people watch shorts, the more, like, how often have you just kind of gone scrolling through shorts? Zero. That's perfect, because fuck that stuff, man.
I know how it affects my mind.
I go scrolling through shorts for a very short period of time. I'll go 3 shorts in, and the short that I watched 3 shorts ago, I'll have completely forgotten about.
Totally.
And that applies to everything else, right? That's why I think I struggle with learning so much now over years ago, is because they have started shortening that attention span that you require to watch things or to gain that dopamine rush, right? So I'll watch a short, and then that will now apply to, okay, I just had a conversation with somebody and they said something very important that I want to respond to in a few minutes once they're done talking. But then they get to the end of their conversation, and now I forgot what that thing was.
Yeah.
Right? Shorts are so damaging to our retention skill. It is insane. And people don't even fucking see it, because your brain doesn't have any exponential threat alarming in its head, right? Because it's not dangerous. It's not going to hurt you, but it's going to hurt you. Well, yeah, it's going to hurt you in the long run, right? So unless you actually catch that and you're just like, fuck this thing, I really want to get rid of my phone. I want to completely get rid of it. Get a flip phone. But I know that I won't be able to keep a job if I have just a shitty phone that can't text even, right? So I want to get something that is kind of in the middle, text and call, but I can't, no apps. I don't need fucking apps. I don't need fucking YouTube, nothing like that. Because unless I'm on YouTube looking at something specific that has, good learning content, something like that, it's just not worth it. And I think if people stop allowing distraction to be the thing that they seek, like myself especially, right? I want to move forward, but I find myself just, I'll get home and I'll be like, oh, I'll just watch YouTube for a second.
And then 2 hours have passed.
Literally, dude. Like, not 2 hours. I wouldn't say it gets to that point anymore. It definitely used to. But even half an hour, that's too much of just doing this.
Yeah.
On 6-second videos.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the way that it affects you, like, in the way that, like, your brain perceives what's happening, is the way that you have short-term and long-term memory. If your scratch pad, your short-term memory, is inundated with 10-second snippets of entirely different information, well, nothing can congeal and be consolidated to a point where I'm going to bring that and relate it to my long-term memory and then associate different things and try to make connections, right? Nothing's actually making it through the bottleneck. So not only am I tarnishing my short-term memory by associating it with 10 seconds in terms of my interval of attention, rather than, let's say, 30 seconds or a minute or something else, which you can train for just by doing different activities, is you're not actually helping your neuroplasticity.
Right.
Because let alone it being in the short-term memory, it's still affecting the way that your brain receives your experiences. Because if my experience is going to be, because your brain knows what's happening in order, it'll be like, okay, he sat on the couch, so that's where the first tick of my neuroplasticity started in my brain at the beginning of my routine. I'm going to go through my routine, which is going to be snapshots of 10 seconds and 10 seconds and 10 seconds over a period of time where it ended. My brain's going to capture the start and the finish, and then whatever happened in between. But what's happening in between isn't benefiting my overall mind. Well, it's going to sacrifice it because it doesn't have any relativity to what I currently possess. Maybe some things make it through based on immediate shock value and maybe nostalgia
Interest.
or novelty, interest. Certain things might pique certain parts of your brain where maybe something will transfer, but the rest of it's going to get dumped.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're not actually having a single line of focus, let's say topic oriented, well, then you're not going to make direct connections.
Right.
So you're sacrificing certain capabilities where you may have had a better ability in the past, right? Because over time you can kind of rewrite and overwrite certain things depending on what stage you are in your life and the way that your brain is, let's say 25 and beyond or prior, where you're more passively learning prior and you're more modifying after. Right? So if I'm modifying what I currently possess after this point of time, where now I'm overwriting previous parts of my brain to this worsening of this attention span.
Right. And I think the society we live in is also making it so that's acceptable. Because I believe something like 45% is a passing grade now.
What?
In schools. And it's getting lower and lower.
I knew it was like 50
No.
as in like a fail. But like
50 it was when we were in school.
Yeah.
50 was the dead bottom
Yeah.
grade for passing. Dead bottom grade, I think I heard is like 45, 43%.
Yeah.
And it's below 50% now. How?
And that's in like grade school.
Yes. How crazy is that? They're slowly lowering the amount of knowledge that you need to be able to handle because of the way that the world is going.
Yeah.
Children aren't able to focus because they literally have fucking iPads in school. And do you think that they're not going to be distracting themselves on that and staring at this screen and doing all this other garbage? I've said it before and I'll say it again. I hate seeing phone parenting. Phone parenting is the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
Right? It's setting us up for these failures in school and in the world. Right? There was a woman on the ferry when we were going back, coming back from the Luke Combs concert, and her son, I think it was her son, was in his car seat, freaking out, crying, and reaching up to her phone, and she would put on music videos for him, and just to make him stay quiet. That is so backwards because that kid is now understanding that this is where he gets his good feeling from. This is where he's
The copium.
Yeah, this is where he wants to put his attention, right? And this was going to just make it harder and harder and harder for him to get away from that being the thing that he wants to put his attention towards, right? Think about it when he's 10 years from now, constantly being able to be on phones and iPads and games and all of these things constantly. How much damage that's going to do when he's becoming an adult, right? He's going to have grown up with knowing that this thing is the thing that he goes to for his entertainment, for his knowledge, for everything. Instead of just being able to experience life, he's experiencing a screen. And that's just the most damaging thing that I could imagine. But I think it's just the way that the world's going.
Yeah,
And
it's bizarre to me.
It is bizarre. It's absolutely bizarre. And then Neuralink, right? How long until we just have information downloaded into our brains because we're just dumb and we can't learn things? Right? Like
it's like the next degree. Like you have shitty conversations, which is like text compared to in person, and then you have shitty information, which is, let's say, a phone to Neuralink. But what I mean by that is your gauge of interest. Because if you're not actually interested, you're just inundating yourself with information, you're going to retain zero. Because interest is the compounding factor for your memory to associate actual importance to it. So it's going to have a higher threshold of value in your mind where you're actually going to remember that thing because it was interesting and enjoyable and you actually liked it and you weren't feeling like I want to distract myself with anything else
Yeah.
Rather than what I'm doing right now.
Yeah. So
And that's the problem.
I think. Yeah, and I think that's the damage that is being given, like dealt to these children now, like especially like 2-year-olds and 1-year-olds that have these phones. Right. This kid was like 2 years old, 1.5 years old, and that kid is going to probably, and this is, I don't know what this kid's life is going to look like, but their interest is going to be those music videos. Anything that's happening on that screen is going to be the interest. So they're not going to have to step away from that because they're everywhere and they're affordable, right? You'll be able to be on your phone. Like, if we wanted, we could get distracted right now and we could go watch shit on the screen.
Yep.
Or play video games, right? And our brains wouldn't tell us that that's a bad thing to do. Our brains would, because we know we want to do better. But for a child that grows up like that, for a child that is trying to make his way in the world, only knowing screens, only knowing like the sociability of it is going to start to decline. The sociability of our people, like everybody,
Already is.
It's already on the decline, super hard, right? We have to use fucking Tinder to meet people and go on dates.
I mean, don't have to.
Tinder
honestly.
Gold, especially. But most single people have Tinder.
It's like grocery shopping.
It is, and you have so many fucking options. You don't know who to just choose. You don't just go out on a date with somebody and be like, oh, I like that person, but then you go back to Tinder and you have 14 other people that you could line up a date with. So you're like, oh, well, that person had a funny looking tooth.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try this person. And then maybe I can go back to that person if I don't like this person.
Yeah.
And like, how are you ever supposed to make an actual connection with somebody by doing it that way?
Yeah. I mean,
By
that's
meeting
the other
them
thing is
through a screen.
it's hard to gauge someone's expectations.
It is.
Right? Like if you're meeting someone in a place where, let's say it's like a club at like university, right? And you're doing mutually a thing that you both enjoy, right? You already have a connection. You're in the same space rather than this person who may have all these other intentions and you have no idea to gauge them. So sure, you may think, oh, I'm going to try this person. And then it's a colossal failure because first of all, you probably don't even know what you want.
Yeah.
Because you don't know who you are yet. So you don't know how to gauge what works with you. But generally, I would say Tinder is right? Because most people can see, oh, I have this and that's my option. So I'm going to rate this person less in my own mind and keep myself open to alternatives because there is a potential option.
And yeah, and the issue that kind of comes with, like, on top of that is that there is so many different levels that you have to go through to actually even accept somebody on Tinder. Do they look the way I want them to look?
Yeah.
Okay, they pass the look standard after you go through all their photos that they've specifically handpicked for Tinder.
Yeah.
Like, they pass the looks. Great. They look great. Yeah, oh yeah, she's hot. Now let's go to the description. Do they pass the description? Every single person is, of course, going to say, I like going on hikes and going for walks on the beach, and I'm very adventurous, blah, 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 blah. Do they pass what you want? So they have to go through this, like, screening phase. It's like a fucking job interview
Yes.
for a date with somebody, and you have infinite of them. So you have all this option, and you're just never going to be able to settle with somebody. You're never going to be able to just choose and be like, oh, because you always have the ability to go back and find somebody else.
Yeah. So you think.
So you think, right? And of course, there's people that are going to lie, and there's people that are just going to say what they got to say, and maybe post the best of the best pictures of them to make people to get as many. And most people don't even use Tinder. Like, well, I won't say most because I don't know most people, but a lot of people use Tinder just to show off to their friends how many likes they have or how many matches they have, right? I know of people, especially women, because women get a lot more likes than men. Women get a lot more matches than men will. So there's been women in the past that I've met that showed me how many matches they have, and it's like in the 400s.
Holy shit.
Like, how are you ever supposed to choose a mate with 400 fucking choices and counting, right?
Yeah.
And then there's like, and they'll go to their girlfriends and they'll show off their matches and stuff, and they think that somehow brings them value.
Well,
like,
what just popped in my mind was a really important point, really, and that's about like selection bias kind of idea. Where if I gave you, let's say I have 3 different cups on this table, and I told you that you had a coffee, a hot chocolate, and let's say a water, right? Simple. You get 3 choices. Easy enough to pick between those 3 choices, right? Let's say you like coffee. You're going to pick the coffee. But let's say I put out 25 different drinks, beers, this, that, the other thing. I had a whole selection, and you had 5 seconds to make a choice. You're not going to be able to make a choice unless you really like one of those options.
Yeah.
But
or if you're really good at just fucking grabbing something.
Yeah, but if you're indecisive,
you're not getting anywhere.
You're not getting anywhere.
Nope.
Right? So the more options that you have, it's way harder to make a choice.
Absolutely.
Way harder to make a choice, which is why it's easier to narrow down your options. But generally, if you have 400 options, good luck.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And
good luck feeling good about your choice either.
Yeah, right?
Right? That's the other thing.
Like could you imagine if 2 people actually hit it off, went on dates, then decided to be together for like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 a year, right? Like, and then one day that person just was curious and was like, oh, I'll just open up my Tinder again. And they find out that they have a fuck ton of matches.
Yeah.
Right. And then there's been actual people that have done that and then purposely deteriorated their year-long relationship so that they could go back and try again and, have all these options. And
Reroll.
Yeah. Like, it's just sad. People aren't going in a direction that I feel has meaning anymore. Their relationships don't really have meaning. The meaning is all attention.
Yeah.
They want attention. And I just like I'm so over it, the attention
or
aspect.
material gain.
Or material gain. Like there is some material gain that intrigues me, right? Like I want to have a nice house one day. I want to be able to afford to have a nice hot tub, for example. Just things like that. Be able to build a stable and have horses, whatever, right? That kind of stuff. But those all have value to me because those are things that I identify myself as enjoying and wishing that I could work towards. It's all something that I want to earn.
Yeah.
But when you're looking at the way that people communicate and the types of things that they want, it's mostly got to do with money. It's got to do with cars. It's got to do with the most fanciful of things, right? The hottest girlfriend, the whatever, right?
The social value.
Yeah, it's all about the reaction of others. It's not things that are personal for you. It's not things that are like, oh, I genuinely want this thing to happen because this is something that I value. Most people are looking for things that other people value for their own social status to rise. Because, let's be honest, everyone wants to be extraordinary.
Sure.
I want to be extraordinary.
Why not?
You want to be extraordinary. Your dad wants to be extraordinary, right? Everybody wants to. But most people aren't. And that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
They can make themselves extraordinary, right?
100%.
But the way we see it is through other people's eyes. Extraordinary living comes from other people's ideals of extraordinary. If you moved to Africa and lived with a tribe of fucking people that have been living as hunter-gatherers for the last couple thousand years, and you were extraordinary in the United States and California or whatever, and had this super nice house and all this bling and nice car and the perfect dog and perfect partner, right? And then you went to Africa and went to meet some hunter-gatherers with all your crazy cool stuff, They would not give a single fuck.
No.
And then you would feel dumb. You'd be like, oh, this really doesn't have as much value as I thought.
Yeah.
And I think the thirst for that social, that interaction that is always going to be positive and always going to make you feel better is the thing that has kind of started this deterioration of our Western world.
The short gains.
Exactly. We're not concerned with genuine improvement of ourselves. We're concerned with everyone else's thoughts and opinions of us. And that's why so many people, like, for example, I just watched a video recently, a short, because I was watching shorts. And it was of a biker in the United States riding past a guy in a truck, and then he just flipped him off. And he flipped him off, and the truck pulls up beside him, and he's like, how would you like it if I just shot you? And he pulled a fucking pistol out. Right?
Whoa.
It like shows it to him, and the guy's like, well, I guess I'd be dead. And then the light goes green and he drives off. So that guy that was in that truck, his ego was so inflamed in that moment that he felt like if he didn't threaten this guy's life for just simply doing an action of flipping off the guy, and he didn't threaten him for that it would somehow be a damaging piece to him. And so he had to show him the gun. He had to show him his dominance, right? He had to be the big guy that was like not to be fucked with.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a lot of people over in that part of the world that will do that, or will just shoot you and won't fucking think about it. You're dead. Why'd you flip me off? You shouldn't have sworn at me. You shouldn't have done this, that. Just like that experience that you had over in Halifax.
Yeah, totally, 100%.
Where the guy was just like super egotistical and super angry with his girlfriend, and then somebody said something and he was like, what? And he came and fucking tackled you, essentially.
Yeah.
Right? Like, people just have this weird thing that is, I want to be the dominant. I want to be the cool person. I want to show everybody that I'm all that. When, for me, I don't give a fuck, man. People... Like, and in the moment I might, for some things, right? Depends on who I'm around. For example, if I was talking to my dad, and like, I care about my dad. He's genuinely like somebody that I communicate with, and my mom, I care about my family, right? Mm-hmm. So I want to make my family proud. Outside of that, I don't really give a fuck. Right, I'm not gonna concern myself with what people say and let myself get so overwhelmed that I'm willing to threaten somebody.
Yeah, and yet again, right? Anything that happens outside of you is a result of a conversation from inside. Mm-hmm. So if you let yourself become the person who you don't want to be, there's still availability to change that. Mm-hmm. You just have to change your language, change the way that you think.
Yep.
Interrupt yourself sometimes and catch yourself with your own awareness doing stupid shit.
Yeah.
And then questioning it. Mm-hmm. And then finding out how I want to change and move forward, right? Because no one should ever feel like they're threatened or feel threatened enough from someone flipping them off that they decide to pull a gun on them.
And say, how would you like it if I shot you?
Yeah. Because... What are you gaining? Like what part of you was attacked? Like I mentioned earlier, it's like mind control, right? If something occurs outside of me that has the ability to control my mind, that's mind control.
Yeah.
Right? This thing occurred and I'm behaving in a way reacting to it.
Yeah.
And that's the buffer between immediate association with self-identity and getting attacked for what you feel like an idea represents you. And then someone attacks that idea is a direct attack to you. That's because you've misplaced your belongings.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
This experience, this identity, whatever, you've attached it so critically that anything that anyone does is a direct attack.
Yeah.
And you've got no defense, you've got no shield up.
Yeah.
To be like, okay, let me just process what you just said, and then, oh, wow, this guy is being a dick. Well, I'm not going to be a bit dick back to him because I don't give a shit.
Yeah, totally.
Frankly, your words went right through both my ears. I still heard them, but it didn't affect me.
No.
Right?
And you have control over whether or not it affects
100%.
you. I think, I really genuinely think that for people that have lived here their whole lives, it's super easy to get caught up in that because it's all around you. That's why I think traveling to different parts of the world is huge.
Humbling. But
the thing that I'm seeing is that when I was over in Bali with Vale, and by the way, I'm engaged now. I didn't say that. It's pretty exciting. But got engaged, went to Bali, had a great time. However, I see, like when I was over in Bali, I saw so many people that were traveling, and they weren't even slightly concerned with seeing the culture. They weren't slightly concerned with anything like that. There was people that were going over there, and there was this one lady, I think she's got to be some sort of a famous YouTuber or something, and she was like sitting on on the steps in the monkey forest going like, and there was like 2 or 3 camera people fucking walking around or getting this shots and stuff, and I'm just like, you're not here to experience this at all. You're here to show off your Western brain to all of these other Westerners while being here. You are literally bringing who you are over here, and you're not trying to experience anything new. You're just trying to look as good as you can for a camera instead of just experiencing the culture, which is why I went, right? Yeah. So when we went down to the super dangerous hike of Klinking, down to Klinking Beach, there was like 4, 5, 6, 7 chicks that were just kind of sitting right up against where the water kind of rushes up, getting pictures taken and like doing this and like just posing. Weird, like posing and stuff. And it's just like, why don't you just take in the view and enjoy it? Like, live your life, see what these people get to experience, and maybe try to take home something with you that can change you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Instead of just going to a place just for fucking clicks. That's what I'm finding a lot of these people are doing. They're just going over there to get clicks on their stuff and to increase their influence,
it's
right?
Like it's just highlights.
Totally. And I, if you go over there and you film yourself experiencing things, that's cool, right? But when you go over there and just have people taking photos of you and following you around and filming you the whole time while you're just trying to look pretty or trying to look cool, trying to do like a backflip with your sheening abs on the beach, you're not experiencing a place like that. You can have a life-changing experience just going anywhere else from where you're used to. And you can literally, like the way that the people in Bali affected me, the way that they live, is incredible. It changed the way that I perceived myself. They are dirt poor. Like, a lot of them are very, very poor people. But I'd have to say almost everybody that I came across that was from that place, even if they were poor, they were smiling. They were happy. They were living life. And if we could just turn our thought process as a culture to something more like that, where we are here to experience and observe life instead of trying to make everyone observe us in life, then I think we could be a lot more happy in our culture.
Yeah, I mean, because like you mentioned with the person just taking pictures, right? That's a surface level existence. There's no depth to that.
No.
You're not showing anything beyond your skin.
Yeah.
Right? And anyone else seeing it, that's all they're seeing. And guess what? They're just clicking on that to see your skin.
Yep.
They don't give a fuck about you.
No.
They just want to see that, scroll to the next one, and find another one that's exactly the same, and then keep scrolling.
Or better.
And then they're just caught in a cycle.
Yeah.
Right? But rather than taking it to like the next level deeper, where I'm actually experiencing my situation and I'm feeling what's happening, and then I'm actually processing it and then trying to feel enjoyment and connect to it, right? Because if there's no connection, then what are you doing?
Yeah.
Then why are you living this moment if you're not connected to what's happening?
Yeah.
You're just wasting your time. You've logged out. I'm sitting over here watching my body on autopilot do its thing.
Yeah.
And then I'm just going to try to fall asleep again and wake up and do it again because I want to push away all this sadness and sorrow and anxiety and depression and all this stupid shit that's happening in my head because I never actually put anything down and I'm holding everything up here. And I can't actually connect with what's happening because I've never actually assessed, looked back, and tried to deal with my own problems enough to actually put myself forward. Right?
Yeah. Totally.
But I mean, right, everyone has their own struggles. Everyone's going through a different journey. Everyone's at a different stage in life, trying to see and experience the world that's around them. Right? But I mean, a lot gets missed in translation when, right, you don't even know what you're doing and why you're doing it. So if you just take a step back and be like, all right, what am I actually doing here? What have I been doing for the past month, past year, past 2 years, past 3 years, past whatever?
My whole life.
My whole life. Have I just been misdirected and I'm just off in the weeds somewhere?
Have I just been following the bandwagon?
Yeah.
Have I been the sheep?
Yeah. Am I part of the sheep herd?
Or am I trying to step away?
Am I not even aware? Do I think I have autonomy and do I think I'm making choices, but my choices are literally just jumping on bandwagons?
And it is, right? It really is, because you fall into that category where your friends are, wherever they are, you usually like to go.
Yeah,
right?
Groupthink.
Or if you do step away from your friends and you'll find a new group. We're a very communal animal.
Yeah.
Right? And we a lot of these people will start this social media so that they can create their own group. It's almost like they're forming a cult that is based around them, right? And
an attention reciprocation feedback loop.
Exactly. And it's all over, right? 500,000 videos are uploaded on YouTube every second because people want that fucking attention.
Yeah.
And they want that to be the way that they make their money or whatever, right? And
which is okay.
It's totally okay.
Right?
It's not a problem.
It's just, why are you doing it?
Yeah.
Why?
Are you trying to learn? Are you trying to gain something from that? Are you trying to share what you've experienced with others?
Trying to help people?
Are you trying to better yourself? Or are you just showing your skin? Are you just trying to show off what you can do to try to get cool likes and good comments? Are you just trying to gain positivity through some invisible means? Yeah, it could be, right? I think you just have to take a step back, and everyone's going to live their life the way they're going to live their life. I'm not going to complain about the way that they're living their life.
No, never.
But
it's not my
at
control.
some point, everybody has to take a step back and just be like, what am I doing here? What's the next step? What comes after this? What happens to those people that are online, that are on YouTube? If they don't make millions of dollars in their tenure on YouTube, if they don't make all of the money that they would need to live the rest of their life happily, what are they going to do after that when they get too old? When they get to a point that, just specifically female vloggers and stuff that have 3 people camera crews that are filming them and getting shots of their butt and stuff, right? What happens when you decide, when people no longer come and watch your videos, and because you have gotten to this point where you are maybe starting to droop, where was your attention focused so that you can now still have a career or a goal in life that moves you forward if you follow that path of being a female YouTube vlogger, right? Or are you just relying on this as your only source of income, as your only thing that you're going to be known for the rest of your life? And then you turn 35, and now there's other younger, more beautiful women and you've kind of aged out and now have to figure out the rest of your shit, and you have no experience because for the last 15 years you've been just doing one thing that actually brings no value to anybody. except for maybe young people's wieners.
Well, let's shift that. Let's just exactly what you just said, but change who, right? Because think of the majority of people. The majority of people are the people working the menial jobs. Vast majority. It's just how it is.
Yep.
Right. As we all are, right? But what value are you bringing to you, yourself, and the people around you when you're doing that thing? Are you sacrificing your mind and your mentality and your everything about yourself to just survive in this job? Or does this thing have a stronger purpose? Or do I have no goal outside this menial job? Right? Like, who am I? What am I doing?
Yeah.
Right? Am I actually feeling satisfied with myself by working these two fucking jobs that suck? Or am I trying to change my direction? I'm trying to temper my mind when I'm not there. Like,
Totally.
how am I going about what I'm doing?
And and when I was just using the female vlogger as an example.
Yeah.
Right. But even for myself as a fire safety technician, there's, I think to myself all the time, is this what I want to do for the rest of my life?
Hell no.
Fucking no, probably not. Right? Could I easily get myself stuck in that as my only option?
Totally.
I totally could if I let myself. Right? I could take all the right steps. I could learn everything. I could get my Red Seal certificate, even though it's not a Red Seal yet, but the gold standard certificate. I could be a proper fire safety technician, and I could have all that knowledge, and that could be a great experience for me. But I'm always looking for the next thing. I'm always going to be looking for what is the next step I can take to further my experience in this life, because we are here to
growth mindset.
Exactly. We are here to observe and experience everything that there is to offer that is of interest to us. Right? And when you hone in on one thing that you want to focus on, you're not giving yourself the alleyways that you can go down to look and experience new things. Right? So it's good when you want to focus on one thing, like being a lawyer, for example. If you want to be a lawyer, you focus on the schooling, you're focusing on the law, you're learning all this stuff. But if you were just trying to be a lawyer and only focusing on the law, you'd probably go crazy. If you didn't have any other interests, like if you didn't...
You would become the law.
Yeah, essentially. Like, if you didn't give yourself the opening for other interests, such as golfing, right? If you like going golfing, make sure you go golfing every once in a while. You got to give your brain a break. You got to be able to say, okay, I want to step away from this thing because this is not everything in my life. And a lot of people give themselves like, this is my life. I'm a lawyer. I've gone to school. I have a degree, blah, blah, blah. I know everything about the law, and this is everything to me, right? Nothing else matters, right? And then they get old, and they're like, fuck, I should have done that other thing that I thought of when I was a kid. I've always wanted to experience this, but now I'm too old to do that. I've always wanted to experience this, but now I'm on my deathbed, and I missed out on all this time because I spent 12 years focusing on becoming the greatest lawyer, and then I spent the next 30 years being a lawyer, right? And what I'm trying to say is, don't just pick one thing. Pick one thing that you kind of wish to master, but leave yourself space and make yourself the time to be able to step away from that. Give your brain a break. Give yourself something creative to work on. Give yourself something fun that you like to do. Give yourself somebody that you can love. Go and experience something like having a family. All these things are extremely important. It's all part of being a human being, right? If you don't, well, you're just missing out on stuff. You're just setting yourself up to regret your life. Yeah. And if there, we don't know what happens after we die, but if there is really only one, and you just go back to darkness, and you just go back to nothing, and you just exist in the universe as a speck of dust, you might as well just live it up while you're here, right? Don't make it about everybody else. Don't make it about what everyone else thinks. Make it about what you want, because it's too short to give a fuck what everybody else thinks.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, a lot of people wait for the perfect opportunity. The perfect opportunity does not exist.
No.
Right? if the perfect opportunity did exist, well, then everyone would be doing exactly what they wanted to do because they had the exact opportunity that they needed, and they saw it, and it represented itself so clearly that they had no choice but to take it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Exactly.
But that's just not how it is.
No.
Unless the fucking stars align.
Yeah.
Which, good luck.
Yeah.
But if you just need something to happen, you will forge your external circumstances to allow the opportunity for your preparation to activate into luck. And then that thing will appear, right? Because you doing all of the things that you can to set up the things around you so they facilitate where you want to go. And then that opportunity, which time and space around you, based on the way that you prepared yourself, you can see it.
Yeah.
Because you have the means to attain it.
Right.
But it might not be opportune in terms of the best circumstance, but it exists.
Right.
Which means there's an opportunity that you can take. And if that opportunity presents itself, well, if you've prepared yourself in the correct way, well, then now I can actually take that opportunity. Right? But if I didn't allow my circumstance to help me and build it, well, then even if that opportunity appeared, I have no ability to actually take that opportunity because I'm so unprepared that I would have to do so many things that, the opportunity's taken by that guy who already has all this shit in a row.
Yep.
And he walks in,
Or
takes
he's
it,
just
boom,
willing,
gone.
or he's just willing and ready to take a step
100%.
and just do it.
Right?
And that's, I think, what we need to all start doing is just take a step.
Take a step.
Doesn't matter even if it's one step, if it's a half step, just take a fucking step, right? Like, don't just sit and be the thing that you are and no more, unless that's all you wish to be, right?
Yeah.
If you really truly find the thing that you are, let's say you like baking, right? And you just bake, and that's been your job. You worked at Cobb's Bread for the last 10 years, and that's all you enjoy doing, right? Fine. It's your life. It's your experience. But if you see something else that you might have interest in, take a chance. Give it a go. You can always go back to Cobb's Bread.
Yeah.
Right? Like, just take a chance and take a step towards it. Give it a fucking try.
Yeah, perfect example is this podcast right now.
Exactly.
Right? Like, if I didn't get this equipment, or we didn't prepare ourselves in a way that we could arrive today, well, then this opportunity would have never been able to have been had. Mm-hmm. Right? Because we didn't have the things to take this opportunity for.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, we looked at it. The process behind making this podcast a thing is, this isn't, there's a lot of people that are out there that go, oh, another group of white guys on their podcasts, right? Like, and I've literally heard those words come out of people that are close to me's mouths, and I'm not going to say any names, but really, what this is for us is we communicate like this all the time. Mm-hmm. We always talk like this. This is just something that we enjoy doing. We like talking and kind of going over thoughts in our heads, and we're like, you know what? Let's just talk about this and have other people's opinions be able to be brought to us so that we can expand our brains and expand what, understand what other people are thinking, and be able to maybe change our own opinions on things through simply getting that voice out there, right? Our voices are going out to other people. And if those people feel they agree with us, then great. And want to converse with us about it, then great. If they don't agree with us, please tell us what you think, because we want to know everybody's opinion.
Totally.
And that's why I like having these conversations with our friends about whatever, right? Because everybody's experience in life is different.
100%, right?
I'm just curious to know their perception on things. And that's, I think, just what this podcast is for, where we want to understand other people so that we can apply everything that we've learned to ourselves. Everything that we hold close that other people have said just goes into our being. So we want to get as much information as possible because, my upbringing was different from yours, drastically different, right? But if we only talk to ourselves, then our opinion is going to be our opinion.
Yeah.
Right? This is like, I'm just going to stop right there. Our opinion is our opinion if we're the only two communicating. Yeah. So if we communicate to each other and then send that out to the world, now those people can come and will have so much more input and from what we've talked about, that we can now extrapolate off of that and learn so much more than we ever would have from just this conversation alone.
Exponential.
And other people get to have the experience of seeing what we think and the way that our thought process works. Right? It's not about, oh, I think I know the best, because I fucking don't. I'm still learning life. I know nothing, dude. I am still, I still have my issues where I stop and I go back to playing video games because I love them, and it's just, everybody has a different experience.
Yeah.
And sometimes it only takes one thing that somebody says to change your entire experience of life.
Yeah.
So fuck it. Put your words out there.
And it can only happen if you're listening.
Exactly.
And you're actually willing to listen and apply it to yourself.
And without some sort of a shield that blocks you from the things that person is saying, right? If you hate
prejudgments.
Yeah, like let's just say you hate Joe Rogan because of his ivermectin thing with the horse tranquilizer.
Yeah.
Well, ivermectin is in many, many commonly used store-bought drugs, right? It's just a normal drug that is used. It just happens to also be a drug that's in horse tranquilizer, right? But a lot of people saw that on the news, that this guy did this, and then they just equate him to a bad person because he decided to do this and tell people that this was what he did.
Such a limited insight.
And people will hold on to that and be like, this guy's voice just makes me think of that thing. And so I just don't like him, and I don't want to know what he has to say. I don't want to hear his words. I don't care for the people that come onto his podcast. I don't care about any of that. But if you just put that to the side and you just go and like listen, some of the stuff that I've learned off of that guy's podcast and the people that he brings in, oh my God.
Oh yeah.
Changed
Learning
my life.
by osmosis.
Changed my life, man. Some of the stuff that he said, my entire brain has changed because of it. Literally. And that's just what I want. That's what I want to gain from this. Even if nothing comes of it, I just want to gain other people's opinions. I want to gain their insights, their experience, because it's, we could have somebody that's been to prison listening to this and then decide to respond to something that we've said from their experience as somebody who's been to prison, right? And that could change and shift the way that we think about a specific topic.
Oh, yeah. And that's not an experience unless you're on that path that you will have, right? So someone, let's say 25, and they've gone through a completely different life. They've grown up in Bolivia, and they had whatever family, or maybe they didn't have a family. But regardless, they're 25 now. And whatever they've done prior to that point has all sorts of different choices and the ways that you've tackled ideas and obstacles, and you've created a person, and that person then sits in front of you, and now you have the ability to learn something from someone who has an entirely different perspective and range of proficiencies and skills and different things that they've dealt with and conquered and so on and so forth, where you can ask them questions and learn the short form for how they solved that thing, potentially, right? Or the way that they did it, or the stories that they have, and that can supplement the things that you may lack and you don't even realize you're lacking until you hear it and you're like, oh, fuck, that clicked. Like, goddamn.
Like the
like that shit
connected.
made sense.
Yeah, exactly. And it could just take one thing that can change your entire experience of life. It can just take that one thing to connect the circuits, and then it makes way more sense.
Yeah.
Right? And I think I've had those experiences many times, and it's changed far, a lot of parts of me have changed in just the last couple of years because of just our talks and talking with other people and just deep inner thought, that kind of stuff, right? That's why I want to do these chats.
Totally.
Other people can jump in on them. Fuck,
100%.
I'd love to have people talking to us live right now. It'd be fucking awesome. Hear what they have to say. Hear what they think. That's why I'm excited about all this. And,
so much opportunity. Right?
Absolutely.
And we're just like the first step into this journey where I can't even see what's in front.
No.
Right?
It's happening now. Right? This is what we're doing. Yeah. And I'm excited about it.
100%.
Anyways, I got to pee, so we should wrap this up.
Cool. Well, that was a great conversation.
Yes, absolutely.
And there will be many more.
Absolutely. Excited
and there
for
will
the
be
next
guests.
We will be trying our best to bring people on. We're still figuring it all out, but
Yeah.
you know what? That's life. We're figuring it out day after day.
Yeah. Such as everyone else. And I hope you have a great day, everyone.
Yes.
Take care.